Hey, one more thing before you go. PTSD, depression, mood swings, alcohol, drugs, escape, on the verge of suicide. Where do you go when you're a warrior who has given your life to helping others to get help for ourselves? We as warriors, that includes veterans, active duty military, active and retired law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, first responders, we all volunteer for our job. We chose to serve others and put our life on the line to protect and serve, to defend the freedom that we all have, and take care of the injured. Sometimes those horrors of this world catch up to us and we need help. Not everyone understands, but if you stay tuned, we're going to talk with an individual that walked that path for more than 20 years, which culminated in a very unique facility that is designed to help warriors and their families get the help that they need. I'm your host, Michael Herst, and this is That Thing About Warriors' Hearts, Warriors Helping Warriors. My guest in this episode is Tom Spooner. He's a former Special Forces Delta operator and a Warriors Heart co-founder. Tom Spooner's service to our nation in this U.S. Army spanned nearly 21 years, including tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's got an amazing journey, which we're going to talk about. Since retiring from the military in 2011, Tom Spooner has successfully enabled thousands of warriors to acknowledge their struggles, seek treatment, and understand that they are not alone. He's dedicated his life to healing fellow warriors and speaks from the heart about our struggles with chemical dependencies, PTSD, mild TBI, which he had when he suffered some combat injury, suicide prevention after he almost took his own life and got help from his fellow warriors. We've all been there, and more. His military career included time in the 82nd Airborne as a Green Beret in the U.S. Armed 7th Special Forces Group, and ultimately in the U.S. Army 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta as an operator. Spooner joined forces with successful treatment providers Josh and Lisa Lannon to open Warriors Heart in 2016. Warriors Heart is the first and only private and accredited residential treatment program in the U.S. for warriors only. That's active duty military, veterans, first responders, and EMTs and paramedics. It helps American warriors struggling with drug and alcohol addiction and other co-occurring issues like PTSD, mild TBI, trauma, depression, and more. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Tom to learn more about his journey and how he helps Warriors Heart be created in this fantastic environment to heal. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Michael, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. What a fantastic journey you've had, actually. It's been very in-depth. You are a warrior. You're a combat veteran. You have made it through many tours, as I just said, through combat and made it home, and had some personal struggles of your own, and you have overcome. So well done.
Thank you very much. Yep. It was definitely with the help of a whole lot more than me. Definitely didn't do it on my own.
Yeah, it's kind of a family, isn't it?
Absolutely is. It's kind of the family business, you know?
Oh, 100%. I know that you and I had a little brief conversation prior to us taking the interview, but I like to kind of start at the beginning so our viewers kind of understand where you come from and how you got to where you got, because it is a journey. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in a little town called Belglade, Florida. It's on the southern end of Lake Okeechobee. It's right next to Clewiston and Pahokee and Chosin and a bunch of other towns you've probably never heard of. So it was that kind of a small town. And I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And I had, like we had talked about before, my grandfather was in law enforcement for 30 30 years. I was a state trooper in Alabama, state trooper in Florida, and then for the police department in the city of Belgrade. And so I grew up, you know what I mean, in that kind of environment.
Did you have anybody else within your family that was military?
I did. I had an uncle that was a 3-tour Vietnam veteran, and then my grandfather on my mother's side was a World War II veteran and spent time in the Philippines, you know, during the island campaigns. But he was in the Army also. So those were kind of my military mentors and kind of heroes as far as wanting to join. And I've always just wanted to join the military. It was just something I've always wanted to do it for as long as I can remember.
So in lieu of college, you decided to join the military right out of high school?
Well, that was my plan, was to join right out of high school. But my uncle and my grandfather were both enlisted, and you know, and they said, well, if you're going to join the military, you need to be an officer. So you need to go to college and get a degree, you know, and be an officer. And I said, okay, well, how I was raised and how I grew up during that time, you know, you did what you were told. And so I pretended to go to college for about a year and a half, which was a disaster. I had a lot of really good times, but I didn't really succeed in that endeavor. So in 1990, you know, I decided to stop my college route and enlisted into the United States Army.
Did you know what you wanted to do? What was your MOS when you first went in? Did you pick one out, or did they pick one for you?
I did. All I ever wanted to do whenever I came in was be a ranger. Like I just wanted to go to the Ranger Regiment. I just wanted to be a ranger. It was in all the Soldier of Fortune magazines that I would read. All the books that I was reading was all the Vietnam vet books, and it was just my sole focus was be into infantry and to go into the Ranger Regiment. And the funny thing is, out of my whole military career, that's the only thing that didn't happen.
Yes. Life kind of throws you those little curveballs occasionally.
Yeah, and the everybody's got recruiter stories. You know, as my recruiter lied to me and you know said I would get this and that and everything, but I did. I joined in 1990, but my family influence it's in all the services. You know, whether it's the military, firefighters, law enforcement, EMT. It's you know, the majority of the time, 80% rule. You know, is it's a family business. You know, everybody kind of gets into the family business. You know, and ours is one of service. You know, and so. That's what I got into, and I loved it. You know, and I was pretty good at it from the get-go.
Yeah, I had mentioned to you earlier. There's on your website, which we'll give you guys the website here in a little bit, and it'll scroll across the bottom when it comes back to you again. But I would highly recommend everybody to kind of take a look at that trailer that's on there because it tells a little bit about your journey there as well. And has some visuals that are very helpful to kind of understand where you came from and you know what you had done in your career. You did many tours in combat, correct?
That is correct.
Where'd you start off?
So when I first came into the military, it was when I was at basic training is whenever the Gulf War kicked off. So right out of basic training, AIT jump school, I went to the 82nd. And within after about a month and a half of being at the 82nd, I immediately shipped over to Saudi Arabia. And then for the next 6 months, you know, was in the Gulf War. So that was my initial entry into the military, you know, straight from civilian life right into combat. So it obviously set the tone for the rest of my career, you know, from that point on. And so I ended up, that was the first piece of it. And then my next combat experience was obviously post 9/11. And, you know, I ended up doing 40 months total time of combat. I did 12 rotations, 1 to Afghanistan, 11 to Iraq, until I retired, in 2011.
I know that you had talked about you've had some TBI during that time period there. I know that TBI has probably been around since, I mean, as far as we can remember, with World War II veterans may have had traumatic brain injury, but they called it something different than they call it now. When did you first realize that you possibly had some TBI?
Yeah, so it was. I know definitively whenever I got it, it was a 82 millimeter mortar round, probably about 20 yards from me. And and how I know that it was definitively then was because I can tell you what my life was like up until that moment, and then I can tell you what my life has been like after that moment. But at the time, which that was September 2006, at the time, it wasn't uncommon. Everybody that I had known had been blown up. So it was obviously a significant event that occurred along with that. But I just, was like, okay, you just keep going, right? That's what we do on the job in the professions that we're in. Is like, hey, you figure it out and you just adjust, adapt, and you keep going. And I did that all for 4 more years. But whenever it came time in 2010, because we had talked about it before the show. I had 20 years in, normal retirement, but I had planned on staying in for like 30 years. I was a super lifer and had no desire to not do anything other than what I was doing. But by the end there, I had broken my back surgery, shoulder surgery, leg surgery, the normal kind of broken body parts pieces. But then the big thing is I got all this cognitive testing that identified that I had a significant traumatic brain injury, explosive blast wave injury, which is a little bit different than blunt force trauma. And so I was basically operating at 50% of processing speed and 50% verbal memory. So I had a lot of what we'll call issues, going on at that time. I would get lost. I wouldn't know where I was at times. Big, huge emotional mood swings. Nothing in my behavior as far as negatively, but emotionally, I wasn't really present. It was just an accumulation, of on the brain side of the house, but then also on the unprocessed trauma piece of it. What I like to say, they call it post-traumatic stress. They have a bunch of different names for it, but it's basically just, emotions that I hadn't processed that were just kind of locked up inside. So I had to, once I got all that diagnosed correctly, then I spent about the next 4 months in cognitive therapy, vestibular therapy, psychological therapy. I even had to get on meds for probably about 8 months because I had a little bit of a chemical imbalance going on. And but the beauty of that stuff is that it works.
Yeah. Were you still operate? You weren't still operating at that time, were you?
No, at that time I'd made the decision that the decision was made for me, that hey, I no longer can physically, mentally, emotionally, handle the profession that I was in. I mean, I could have taken another job, but for me I was only joined the military to do the job, and if I was going to do something outside of that scope of work, then why would I be in the military? So
Yeah.
so I ended up getting out. But like we had talked about before, I had to deal with, a lot of that stuff, being and not be able to do what I love doing.
Yeah, that's very difficult when we're told. I relate to you in certain perspectives when I walked out of the Fire, Police, and Pension Board when they handed down my mandatory disability to retirement. And when my wife and I left there, I broke down in the car because I felt like I just lost my identity.
Absolutely.
Completely. And it wasn't by choice. It was them taking it away from me. And it really had a profound effect upon me. In fact, on a lighter note, in fact, it had it so much that I was calling so much stuff in. They were going, Sarge, just put your feet up and relax. We got this. quit calling stuff in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that presents a whole new set of problems to warriors who have lived that life, and that was their, because it's not just a job, it's who you are,
Completely.
and it's difficult to let that go or be told that you have to let that go for any particular reason. And it's kind of a life adjustment within itself, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I mean, that whole, like you said, you can't. I had done a really good job of broadening myself. I mean, I had struggled with alcoholism at an early age, and I ended up getting sober in 1992. With 12-step program and fellowship and all that kind of stuff. And so I had been part of that the whole time. So I had a lot of emotional tools in the tool belt, mental tools. I had support groups. I had a lot of things in favor for me. However, that didn't make it any easier. That transitioning of like, wow, a huge part of my identity and who I was and what I was, laid in the job. I have an incredible family. I mean, my wife and I have been together for this year. It'll be like 33 years. I have two
Congratulations.
sons.
Us too.
Yeah. So I had all these different things. However, it was I had to define what my next purpose would be. Uh, once I was separated, from my job, from what it
Right.
was that I was doing, I had to now define like, hey, why am I getting up in the morning now? Why am I, pushing through my struggles? Why am I trying to get better? I had to define that for myself.
Yeah, define new purpose.
Yeah.
Define new purpose, and
Uh,
that's sometimes it's really difficult, especially when you're indoctrinated and inbred within that for so long. It's difficult to move past it, um, and to try to redefine yourself. And unfortunately, some can't, and that's where I think warrior's heart comes into play, because when we get to a point where we have that struggle with trying to hold on to the identity that we were, and or what transpired during that identity, that we need to talk to somebody that really understands from the inside out, and not just from a clinical perspective.
yeah, absolutely. And I always go back to what the language that we're familiar with, right? Like on the job, and most of us are familiar with like, hey, if I'm get of injury, you know what I mean? Of hey, is self aid, there's buddy aid, and then there's call, you know what I mean? A medic or EMT or paramedic, that's beyond our level of care, and so that's like what you said. A lot of times, just the our culture and the personalities that each of us have that made us really good at the job also kind of get in the way of of seeking and asking for help.
Well, like you
Because
said earlier, it's kind of a push down and override. You push down your override to get the job done.
exactly,
And that's in both of our professions.
yes,
It's you push down, override, and I broke my finger, two fingers, while I was arresting somebody for that stolen a car, was violent, and so forth. And you can't just stop and go, "Ow,
right.
let me
You
go
have
take
to
care
keep
of this."
going.
You just have to keep doing stuff until you get it done. Even after I got hit by the car, when the suspect hit me by the car, we still arrested him and took care of the job. Then I kind of collapsed and went, I can't do this
Right.
anymore. I'm done, but I got you.
hmm And
uh,
that's what, and that's the one thing that the most of our population, you know, it's really I'll just speak for myself, and that was the big part of the struggle of seeking help. It had nothing to do with ego. It had nothing to do with me of fear of talking to psychologists or getting help. Like I said, that was already
right.
part of my lifestyle. The thing that really I couldn't wrap my brain around was how did I go from the guy that's providing help, to others, who's helping others, and now I'm the guy that needs help. It was just like I said, no, there wasn't any ego, there wasn't any stigmas, there wasn't. I just really had a. Plus, I had the TBI going on, so
Right.
that affected
On
my
top of that.
executive decision making functioning. So it required another warrior, to help me along the way. We say that, well, we change the narrative about it, but a lot of times you'll hear people say like, "Hey, brother, if you need any help, just let me know." And it's like, let's pause and think about that a second.
Right.
You and I just described how number one, we're not going to let the team down, right? And we're going to get the job done. And then number two, I'm not going to ask for help because that's part of how I can get things done.
Right.
And then now I'm going to say, hey, if you need something, let me know. And it's like, hang on a second, we just have to switch that around where, I mean, we know our brothers and sisters that are in need, and it's up to us to kind of get into their business.
Yep.
What they'll be allowed, obviously grown people make grown decisions, but it's just it's really, and we had talked about it before the show, we've lost friends, family members, whether it's to suicide, self-medication, results of the profession. It's like, hey, it's our responsibility as much as we can, you know what I mean, to be doing what we can to provide what it is that they need, and not just to let them go quietly in the darkness.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Profound what you're saying. It's humbling. It's humbling because it's difficult, as you said, for us that are there when everybody's running away from, we're the ones that are running into.
Yep.
And it's difficult to have to say, I'm sorry, can you pick me up and help me walk to the bathroom?
Yeah, we don't even know how to do that.
We don't,
you know what I mean? It's not like in our vocabulary. It's not, I mean, the folks that are in the profession fully understand that, and it's because a lot of people, they'll confuse that with ego, and they'll confuse it with being hard-headed and stubborn. And well, that may be a little bit of truth to the hard-headed and stubborn piece, but it's really not. It's like I had to be trained on how to ask for help and take care of myself. Because to me, it seemed selfish.
Right.
I mean, my job is,
Yep.
like the law enforcement saying, protect and serve, right? Like
Exactly.
that was from in my bones. You know what I mean? That's what I love and enjoy and everything. And so that's why it was part of my training and part of my skill set to learn that, hey, it's okay to take care of yourself and to do the things that you need to do so that you can be healthy in mind, body, and spirit. But the intent is so I can be there for others. That's how I
Right.
had to make it make sense in my own head, is because what would jump into my mind is like, I'm being selfish and self-centered. It's like, no, uh, you're doing these things that you need to do so you can be there for others, and that's to date, that's the narrative that I have to use on myself, in order to do the things that I need to do. Because it always comes down to one thing for me is that I don't really care that much about myself, but I care about you. And I care about not letting my family down. I care about not letting my team down. So therefore, I have to take care of myself. But that's what we did on the job too. That's
Oh,
why we
exactly.
maintained physical fitness. That's why we maintained our marksmanship. All the different trainings that we did was so that we could be there for the job and for each other.
Yeah, exactly. That we had each other. That we counted on each other. We had each other. They were family, not just
Mm-hmm.
coworkers, family. And it the environment. I can't remember this individual's name, and I should have remembered it from the documentary, which I'm going to have a link to the documentary in the show notes so everybody can see this. You have to watch this documentary. It is a profound opportunity for people to understand what warriors go through and the struggles and the issues that, I won't even need to call them issues really, the obstacles that they need to overcome in order to ask for help. And the fact that this environment was created by you and your partners to allow that obstacle to be removed by people we trust.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that my wife and I all saw in that, because, we all trust, we in this environment, we in this job, we on this job, my job, your job, the firefighters, paramedics, we're all within a certain unique family, but we all walk the similar path. And
absolutely,
we're all brothers and sisters within that, because we're all serving and protecting in various forms. And it's difficult to step outside of that family to ask for help. And when we do step outside that family to ask for help, it's in I know that you know this as well as I do, those, in no disrespect to any clinician that is out there trying to help. My niece is a psychologist, so I have no disrespect, but they don't always really understand from our perspective.
Right.
Because our perspective is a little different.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that because of the amount of time that I've spent with our population, when it comes to healing and clinicians and everything, and we talked a little bit about it before the show, like just if we were talking about post-traumatic stress, is the thing is that, we that has to be broken down. And like you said, for the effectiveness of the clinicians and their approach of healing, and processing trauma is it's broken down into two categories, and that's victims and volunteers. And in victims, is obviously that an event has happened, to them. Obviously, with us, event, things have happened to us, but we volunteered to be in that position. So if I'm trying to go do some mental and emotional work, and you approach me as if I'm a victim, that's never going to work because it's the wrong approach. But if you approach me as, hey, you volunteered to put yourself in this position, in this traumatic event occurred, so let's process it in that manner, not from a victim standpoint, but from a volunteer standpoint, and then it begins to make more sense.
I love that. I was going to bring that up to you when watching that documentary. That statement within itself touched my heart. It touched my wife's heart, because, we don't think of ourselves as victims. Like you said, we chose to do what we do. We chose to take that profession. We chose to help other people. We chose to be there for those other people. And what I like about this facility, the Warriors Heart facility in itself, is the fact that it approaches healing from that perspective. And there are individuals there that have gone through it themselves, and they understand why you're there. They don't have to ask you, why did you put yourself in that position? Why did you run into the firefight? Why did you run into the fire? Why did you run towards the bullets when everybody's running away from the bullets?
Right.
Because they understand.
And like you said, that's one of the key things about keeping that population. Because, like you said, there's a great bit of difference between, let's say, what a combat veteran has experienced and what a stateside paramedic has experienced. That's true. There's very different physical locations, foreign countries, all of that stuff. However, the things that are eating us up inside are all the same. They're absolutely all the same, and that's the humanity aspect of it. You know what I mean? It's always, whether it was the car wrecks, whether it was the innocents getting killed, whether it was the things that just didn't make any sense, and how that affected our humanity. Like you said, we volunteered for the job. Got it. You know what I mean? We volunteered for the job. However, we're still humans, and unless we're a psychopath or a sociopath, where there's going to be things that we run into that or that don't just set well with us, and we need a professional's help, or I have needed professionals' help at time, just to help me connect the dots, and just to help
Yeah.
me. Uh, but it has to be the right people, like you said. I've had my fair share of therapists or clinicians that just weren't a right fit for me, but then I have had some that were absolutely the right fit, and that's what gave me the progress that I needed.
Well, and that I think that let's talk about a little bit how we keep talking about the facility, the facility, the facility. How
Right.
did you come about Warriors Heart? Warriors Healing Warriors. I mean, what an amazing name as well. Can we talk about how you got to there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the super long story because it's my whole life, and it's Josh and Lisa Lannon's. It's their whole life's work, and my whole life's work, and everything that I've experienced, coming together. And that's why we are partners. Where I can't do what they can do, they can't do what I can do. So together in a partnership, we forged Warrior's Heart. And that is that. What Warrior's Heart is a 42-day inpatient treatment facility, uh, for the warrior class, which defined as those that face life and death on a daily basis as a profession. That's who goes to Warrior's Heart. And um, and it's not military isk in any kind of way. However, the main thing that we do there is to remind them of who they are. Everybody comes to us at the bottom end of where they're at in their lives. No one comes to a rehabilitation center on an upswing. It's we all come there at the lowest parts that we've been. So everything that we do there is about reminding them of who they are, not who they are not. We want to get rid of those pieces that no longer serve, and that's what we do there. And that population, people talk about peer support network, they talk about mentorship, and those kind of things, but we all know that occurs naturally in our profession. We naturally help out the new guy. We naturally help out someone who's down and needs to be up. So all of those things just occur naturally with our population.
The interesting part is it's Lisa was was it Las Vegas police officer?
Yes.
Las
Yes,
Vegas.
she sure
So she
was.
comes from the law enforcement family as well.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And Lisa also, as a result of war, meaning her father was a Vietnam veteran, or is a Vietnam veteran, and her mother was a Vietnamese translator. So they met, in war, and he was also in law enforcement after he got out of the military, and that's where the unique capabilities that me, Josh, and Lisa bring to the table, because I couldn't run the facilities. Josh and Lisa had successfully run treatment facilities in Utah, Arizona, and then now in Texas, uh, successfully, which is a key word, with high quality of care, uh, for 15 years prior to me meeting them, so
that was for drug and alcohol abuse and counseling and things like that, right?
absolutely, yeah. But it was open to everyone, and that's what they noticed whenever they were running their facilities. When for an example, when they had law enforcement officers, come to the facilities, the words that they use is like, well, I kind of have to be undercover in my own treatment because
Right.
the person sitting across the table from them was a drug dealer, or someone that they would be arresting. So
Yep.
it didn't create obviously a peer network, even though the same things have to be done. And in order for healing to occur, there's no hope. It's just like a combat veteran sitting next to a business guy.
Right.
Hey, they may be great and they can share in certain things, but there's not going to be a a peer network that can be created when you put folks that are like-minded and like professions, because they already have a stable platform to move forward with, you know.
Well, and puts them in a safe environment. I mean, within their mind and their hearts, they're in a safe environment because they grew. Their job was that, their family were that. So you feel more
Yeah.
safe around your family. You know, even if you had not been in combat with them or on the street with them in any form, you still know that they carry the same blood, so to speak, and
Exactly.
it
And
makes
it's
it
that
more
same
comfortable.
brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it makes it much more comfortable. So the the perspective of Warrior's Heart, um, when you approach them to create this environment,
Mhm.
at that time that they did that, they had already been, just to clarify, they had already been building the facilities that they were operating successfully with
Yes.
those kind of counseling. But you brought the unique approach to Warriors, helping Warriors, which then developed into the Warriors Heart Facility, which is a huge facility down in Texas, correct?
It is. It's a 543-acre ranch in Bandera, Texas. And Bandera is about an hour northwest of San Antonio. And we got our license for the facility in April of 2016. And to date, we've had almost 1,700 warriors come through the facility.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, the documentary, again, I keep talking about it because it just touched me so much. I want to make sure that that's going to be in the show notes. Everybody can check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. And I would really encourage everybody to check it out for the basis if you either are going through it yourself or if you have somebody that you are family with or friends with and know that they need help. This is a wonderful opportunity to help them to heal from a very unique perspective. Which,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
what I love about the documentary also is that it really showcases, which is the heart of Warrior's Heart, which is our staff. I
yeah,
mean, it's the humans. Yeah, the facility is incredible and it's wonderful and it's beautiful and it's creates an environment of healing the way that warriors heal, opposite of a hospital environment.
uh,
But it really showcases the staff members and their stories and why are they, committing their lives to serving those that serve us, and it's just amazing. I can't speak enough about the human beings, otherwise known as our staff, that daily put in the work, taking care of those that take care of us.
which is an amazing thing. And you have a foundation that also is with that, correct? Or
We
associated
do.
with that?
We have the Warriors Heart Foundation because, and it was created out of necessity. Warriors Heart is completely separate than Warriors Heart Foundation, and the intention behind that is that, it's governed by HIPAA law. It provides that level of anonymity that legally provides with that because with the professions, we know how super important it is because of the stigmas that are out there of seeking help. And then Warriors Heart Foundation, our populations don't really make a lot of money. so
That's a
so we
fact.
knew there was going to we knew there was going to be a need to fill in the gaps to pay for care that currently didn't exist.
Which I think is a wonderful thing because, like you said, this profession doesn't, yours or mine, doesn't pay very much, and especially if you go out on a disability, that 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 stability with that salary, even
Yes.
as little as it was, doesn't go very far. So that's a really would have been an amazing opportunity for somebody to get help and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to pay for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's that's the biggest thing that we're proud of, or I'm personally proud of, is no one has ever not received treatment at Warriors Heart due to money. Whether we've had, we take TRICARE, we take insurances, we take all these different aspects of it, but also there's between the Gary Sinise Foundation, between all these other benevolent organizations, the Avalon funds, all these different folks that step forward that really
Right.
want to take care of the people that take care of us. It's just an amazing view into humanity, of as far as like, hey, let's do what needs getting done. We've got folks that are busted up a little bit. Let's get them healed up, trained up, and back into the fight. Whether that's back on the job or whether that's back into their lives. And to be able to, because that's what it's all about. Is like,
Right.
how do we re-engage and get back into the business of living and living fully? Not just kind of existing and self-medicating and just kind of getting by. It's like, hey, let's live uh, for what we fought for. What we all put in the blood, sweat, and tears for, and in honor and memory of those that aren't here with us.
Right.
What better way to honor them than to live a full life? But many of us, myself included, needed additional training in how to handle emotions and behaviors and not self-medicate and that kind of stuff. It's a learned skill, much like pistol shooting.
Oh, exactly. 100%. Have to learn how to be a human being again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's tough, and that's, for a lot of us that, it sounds really simple, but it's like, wow, I don't have that identity of the job anymore, for whatever reason. I don't have that ability. It's like I have to define my new purpose, and we are people of service. So I have to immediately get back in to serving. Obviously not in the same way,
Right.
because that time is over. Like my time, I had a great run. I enjoyed every bit of it. I wish it would have went longer, but it didn't. It ended, and so like now I have the opportunity to define what it is that I'll always want to do that job, right? I mean,
Right.
that was the job of my life. That'll never change. I'll think of the glory days and I'll think of the tragedies and the great
Yep.
stuff, and I'll talk to buddies about it. However, it's super important for me that I don't live there. It's okay to visit on occasion, and remember and enjoy all that stuff, and shed some tears, whatever. But however, it's all about like, man, I've really got to get into the business of life,
Right.
and what does that mean? And to know that it's okay, because this is when we talk about folks struggling and myself, it's like, you know, if we needed additional driver's training, or if we needed additional pistol training or rifle training or tactics, we wouldn't hesitate for a second to go to a subject matter expert and say like, hey, we need to get from this level to the next level. Would you help us? And absolutely. You know what I mean? And so the thing is we've always done that. Now I just need to apply that same mindset to my own personal growth. You know what I mean? And to realize, just kind of desensitizing it. It's like, well, I don't want to go ask for help. It's like, well, did you ever have someone instruct you on how to shoot a pistol better? It's like, well, yes, I have. And it's like, okay, well, what's the difference? Uh, what's the difference?
That's a great
And
way to
there
look
is
at
no
that.
difference.
Yeah, there isn't a difference. That's a great way to look at that. It's just putting another tool in your belt.
That's it.
Yeah,
And
another tool in your belt.
and I get it. There's big stigmas out there. On the military side, on the law enforcement, liabilities and this and that. It's like, hey, there's also, if I identify that I need to additional training in certain areas of my life, hey, I can seek that, off the books if necessary.
Well, and again, like we said earlier, we're all taught to push down and override, push down and override, push down and override, but you can only push down so much. You can only override so much before it kind of culminates into one big thing, and that will come out in anger, come out in mood swings. That'll come out in alcohol. It'll come out in drug use. It'll come out in other maybe detrimental to your health issues with regard to how to deal with those things when they boil to a point. And I think that the structure that you have created is a nice way to kind of get people involved in taking control of their life back.
Absolutely. And the thing is out at Warrior's Heart too, it's it's not a get along and get by kind of course. Like you have to earn it. You have to put in the work. You have to earn that coin because we have a coin out there at the end, and but again, our population understands that,
Right.
where like, hey, you have to accomplish these different tasks in order to receive results. You don't get results by just hanging out. So
Yeah. See you
that's
next
that's the one
week.
thing we're really proud of there is if you're just thinking that you're going to come out there and just kind of do what you want and hang out, you'll get written up 3 times, and then you'll go to a behavioral board, and then you'll get a behavioral contract, and then you'll be given several opportunities to hey, correct, whatever behavior it is. Then if you choose to refuse to, follow the rules, and do what's required, then you'll have to leave,
Right.
because and that means something to this population,
It does.
to the like I have to earn it because we know we all appreciate the things that we have to work for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even rank.
Right.
I had to earn master patrolman. Master patrolman. I had to earn corporal. I had to earn sergeant. You have to earn lieutenant. You have to earn. You have to work your way wherever you're going. You have to earn it, and you have to earn it by training and by consequences for actions. And if you fail to do, then you don't receive. So I like that
Right.
structure. It's a very well, we're inbred with it. It is developed and evolved within us. That's the way we look at life.
Hmm.
Warrior's Heart can. At what stage should somebody come to you guys? Is there? Do you have a limit? Do you have something that if somebody's just starting out and they're going, look, I think I'm on the edge. At what
Uh-huh.
stage can they reach out for help?
Well, it all depends on the individual because everyone's on a different path, right? And I'll give you the example I have is we have folks that are active police officers, uh, active duty military members that they haven't gotten in trouble on the job. They've got some struggles going on. They kind of see it coming, and they come to get help at Warrior's Heart. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum that we have is like someone that's a homeless veteran or someone from the profession, where they have nothing. They've lived on the streets for years, and hey, they need help. One doesn't need any more help than the other. So we meet everyone where they're at. If someone, back to your question, if someone is wondering where they are, there's all these different outlets. Like, so I go back to like, hey, self aid, buddy aid, call a medic. So if I can correct whatever it is that's not working in my life, if I can do that on my own or with a self help book or a little seminar or something, hey, that's great. If I try that, hey, and it didn't work, I'm still not getting the results that I want, then I'm going to need to go to a professional, and if that doesn't work, then I'm going to need a hard reset, and that's why I'm out at Warriors Hearts. It's 42 days inpatient treatment facility because it's the hard reset where everything in life is removed from it, and the only thing that I'm there to work on is myself in the relationship with family members and friends and everything that I need working on. So to me, that's kind of the different stages. But one of the one of the best ways to do it too is really you don't have to figure it out on your own. Like you can give, we have what we call admissions advocates. So if you call Warriors Heart, you'll get an admissions advocate on the phone. And they're just not gonna, and they immediately start advocating for the individual, the family member, whoever it is that's calling, and that's even with questions. So you don't have to figure this out on your own. You can call up and talk to an advocate. Is like, hey, this is where I'm at or my loved one's at. What's the best thing to what should we do next? What should I do? So that way, even from the get go, whether you end up coming to Warriors Heart or not, you have that ability of talking to someone that's a subject matter expert in the field, and their number one priority is to get what you or your loved one or friend needs. So that to me is just trying to make a very simple steps, is making that call.
Now, the Warriors Heart Foundation is a 501c3, and anybody that's out here that would love to help you guys, they have the same opportunity to be able to help as well, correct?
They sure do, and that's at warriorsheartfoundation.org. And you can go up there and you see the different programs that the foundation supports, whether that's subsidizing treatment costs for treatment, whether it's canine, community members, education. There's a bunch of wonderful things that the Warriors Heart Foundation does.
This has been a profound and eye-opening journey, getting to know you and to getting to know what you have done and what you've accomplished and how you created this unique environment for healing warriors with warriors. I think that I commend you for, well done. I told you it comes from my heart and my wife's heart and my family's heart. You've touched our lives a little bit, and I want to make sure that I can kind of move you forward as best I can to help other warriors that are out there. So everything that we talked about, I'll make sure is in the show notes so that people can find you, find the organization, and have a phone number to call when they need some help so that they can reach out. I really appreciate you. This is one more thing before you go. And before we go, do you have any words of wisdom that you can share?
The one more thing that it sounds cliche, but I know that you'll know that it absolutely is not. And that is the one thing, that I would want everyone to know is that you're not alone in your struggles. It may feel that way. It may seem that way. But you'd really be surprised, how many of us that are out there that have had, if not the same, very similar struggles. So that's what I would say, is just to know that you're not alone.
Profound words of wisdom. Tom Spooner, thank you very much for your service, both on the job and in your new job. I really appreciate you very much. Thank you for what you do for the world and what you do for veterans, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics, and those families that are with them as well. Thank you for joining me on One More Thing Before You Go.
It is my honor and my privilege to be on here with you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
If you are a warrior or someone you know is a warrior and is struggling and needs help, please contact Warriors Heart at the following website, www.warriors.com/get-help. That's www.warriors.com/get-help, or call 866-380-0023. That's 866-380-0023. You are not alone.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. That's beforeyougopodcast.com. Tell your story, share your expertise, contribute to the blog, and subscribe to the newsletter. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.
And one more thing before you go. Have a nice day, have a nice week, and thanks for listening.
One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life podcast, is a creation of One More Thing Productions, established 2010, all rights reserved.